And we are back for part 2 of Build Optimus Prime, Pack 6. So, picking up where we left off, we're going to bring in that really long wire, and we're going to feed that through the assembly we've made. So there's a hole there the wire is going to go into. It's going to run along the bottom of that assembly and go out the back. And so once we have that in place, then we're going to take part 6-10 and attach that to the assembly with 4 2.3 by 6 millimeter PV screws. So you want to be very careful, make sure that wire is not getting caught or pinched. Now, I'm doing this a little different than I've seen other people do it. You'll notice I have the wire kind of in the middle. And we'll come back to that. So let's jump ahead till I have the screws. So there's a height difference because this is the arch of his foot. So you want to make sure you're holding it up so the screw can bite in. Now I'm tightening that one all the way down. And then again, I'm going to go cross corner so I can get this to straighten itself as much as possible. Again, it's his arch, it's not going to be touching the ground, so that's why you want to get it up. And now we'll just add our third screw and launch our screwdriver. I suspect I'm in the onset of carpal tunnel, by the way. And then our fourth screw. And there we go. So now what I was planning to do was pull the wire through until I had the length the way I wanted it. Problem is the way this is sat, it has actually caught the wire. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to loosen it. Of course, this is me dubbing the footage, so I already know everything that's going on, so I'm a little ahead myself. So next we're going to bring in part 6-02 and 2 6-16s. And then that's going to attach to the foot assembly with 4 3x8 millimeter PM bolts. So just to narrate this is me starting to realize I've got a problem, but not yet doing anything to rectify it. Like I said, this is the hindsight Super Draco on editing after I figured all this stuff out. Because I'm never not going to tell you I messed up. Well, I might, but the footage doesn't lie. So, again, here's me realizing the wire isn't moving the way I want it to, but I'm going to go ahead and mount the bolts, and then we'll come back. So, I've got my 4 bolts preloaded with the washer. Going to drop that in, and then use the Allen key to tighten them down as tight as we can get them. Metal on metal, if you want to do oil you can, but since these are thread locked, I wouldn't advise it. Thread lock is that blue stuff on the bolts. Anyhow, we'll jump ahead till I've gotten all 4 driven. So with that done, next we're going to bring in the top of the foot that we built earlier. Now you want this now the instructions specifically call for the one with the LED. It'll be on the right unless it's upside down, then it would be on the left side. So here's what I was talking about, because I want this wire to be able to move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen that black arch of his foot until I can move the wire easily. So you don't need to go too crazy, just a few turns at a time till there's enough space for the wire to move. Just like that, just that easy. So now that I can move the wire, I have a little more wiggle room to work as I put all this together. So the camera doesn't do this justice, but I'm using both hands, one holding the foot, the other I'm threading the wire as I go. I do not want this wire to go tight or taut, but I don't want a bunch of it to be loose up in there either. Because this wire's got to run all the way up his leg, I want as much slack as I can get. And then once we've got the two halves married together, we're going to seal that up with 4 more 3x8mm PM bolts. For that, we're going to bring in our battery and our test board, and let's make sure the lights are still functional. Because, again, there's a certain point where you're not going to be able to open this back up. And as we can see, I've got his foot is lit up. We're good. So now we're going to lock it together. Okay, so we're going to set that off to the side. Little scene transition as I get my bolts. Each are pre-loaded with a washer. So we're going to bring in the first one. And then we're going to, well, it's going to fall over on me because I'm not paying attention. So we'll correct that. Get it all nice and lined up again. Bolt goes back in, and then we're going to lock all 4 down with our Allen key. So we'll probably come back after I've finished the last bolt. And you do want to be careful, this piece is painted, so you want to make sure you're not rubbing that paint off. And as we finish this one up, so now we've got the front of his foot done, and so now we're going to work on the back. Okay, so next you want part 6-06 and our assembly we made earlier. So obviously it's going to drop in and line up with those 2 screw holes, and then we're going to lock it down with 2 2x6mm PWM screws. Now you don't want to over tighten these screws because the piece with the yellow bits is plastic while the rest of it is metal. So if you over tighten it, you risk splitting the plastic. As you can see, a distinct difference in color and texture between the unpainted plastic and the slightly unpainted metal. Now it's still loose, so I'm tightening the screws until it's not loose. Now this one didn't drive perfectly straight, so I'm going to pull it out and re-drive it. This time I'm actually dipping it in a little bit of oil just to help it because it didn't want to drive all the way in. Since these aren't thread locked, I don't see an issue with it. Now my high torque screwdriver just doesn't have the ergonomics to reach in there like this long one. Although it is a bit compromised because I have to put a big magnet on it, but I'm being cheap on replacing it because it's been there since the beginning. So anyhow, oil so it'll drive in nice and smooth. Again, want to make sure it's not loose, it's not wobbling. And then we're going to attach that to the foot assembly with 4 3x12 millimeter PM bolts, along with 4 6-28 washers. So, want to make sure that wire's not getting caught in anything. Drop it in, line up the where the screws are going to connect it. And then we're going to drive the bolts once I have them out. So we'll be back for that. Alright, so we've got our big long bolts. Not sure why the back of the foot gets the 4 super long ones, because you would think the ones at the front of his, or in the middle of his foot, should also be longer. But anyway, so let's jump ahead, because you've seen me run a bunch of bolts with this Allen key. Just like always, remember I always go diagonally across to try to get because it helps keep everything lined up. So we'll come back once I'm done with the final bolt. And with that final bolt, I think we are essentially done with A, this entire foot, but B, this episode. So before we go, one more thing is we're going to check our electronics one more time. I know it seems redundant, but I am checking them every time I mess with it, because if I screw something up if I make sure before I get to the points I cannot undo it, then we can always fix it. I'm going to do a name drop. That toy guy, he had some of his wires either malfunction or come unplugged, and he can't repair some of them. Anyhow, it's working good. Thanks for watching. Check out my fantasy story on Fiction Press, King of Mercenaries, and I'll see you for the next one.